You told me, you're like, Nee, how many more CPAs are we going to go through?
The reason that I asked that is because no person is going to be perfect. This person is not your personal concierge type of CPA where they're exclusive to you. They're not your consigliere.
Representing Mr. Paul Vitti as his consigliere.
You know what I mean?
But some of them advertise a lot more than just a regular CPA position.
I get that.
And you feel like, well, because I'm paying a premium, you're going to look at my stuff in a premium way.
So that's what Judge Judy says. That's called puffing.
Do you want this face to believe?
You should believe it because that's the truth.
I don't.
Folks, your exciting new medical career, it's just been hit with a serious illness or injury that stops you from earning a paycheck just when you need it most. Check out what Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance said back on episode 176 about having disability insurance early in your career.
The real reason to get it early on is really twofold. One is to protect your insurability. So if you are healthy and you can obtain the coverage, you also pre-approve yourself to be able to buy more in the future. So down the road, as your income does increase, you don't have to answer additional medical questions. All you have to do is show that your income is increased and you can buy more benefits at that time. No medical questions asked.
Protect your income, secure your future. Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. What's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. It's Q&A time. I'm Dr. Nee, host of Docs Outside the Box. I'm joined by
Dr. Renee, who has all the answers.
I don't know if you have an answer to this one.
Uh-oh.
You're not really a tax person, really.
No, I'm not really a tax person. I can talk about taxes, but it's limited.
Yeah. I think what we're really good at is we can give you like the overall sense of what you should be doing with your taxes or the strategy that you should have with your taxes, but you know, you really need to go to a specialist. Like, that's always the case with the show.
Experts.
That's even the case with the financial advice, guys. Like, all this stuff, you guys should always be getting information specifically from your tax professional or whoever your personal finance professional is before you go ahead and take any type of action. But I get questions all the time, whether it's from friends, colleagues, people who just write into the show.
Yes.
And they want to know how we do certain things.
Yes, how we do certain things, not how everybody should do certain things. Okay, people?
Yeah.
How we do certain things.
I think that's pretty right, yeah. This is exactly how it happens with us.
With us. Okay, don't listen. Don't come for us talking about some, well, the Darkos had said that I should. Nope. We never say you. We say this is how we
Alfred,
do
can you hook us
certain
up with the disclaimer on the bottom, please? But yeah, listen. So I got a question that I actually was talking with a colleague about this, but I decided to write it down first so people can really understand the context, and then we'll just get into it. So,
Okay.
So we just jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so real quick, this is a surgeon who has been doing locums for a couple of years, reached out to me out of frustration, and we had a conversation. So let me just write out the question so that you guys understand. Hey, doc, I've been working as a locums doc for almost 2 years. I've recently found out that I owe the IRS thousands of dollars. I'm not happy with my relationship with my current CPA. It's hard to get in contact with them. Everything is reactive. And when I finally get through, the calculations drastically changed, and it's for the worst. Actually, the calculations that the CPA calculated is worse than what the IRS sent me.
Oh, damn.
information about. You can give me a Kevin Hart damn right there.
Damn.
Come on, give me a little bit more.
Damn.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I'm really frustrated with my CPA. What things are you doing to get the most out of your relationship with your CPA? That basically is the question that, you know, I was answering to dude. It took me an hour to get through the situation. But before we answered it on this show, I think the most important thing is to... Sorry, I had to start my timer.
I'm like, what is going on here?
The most important thing is to give the caveat of, folks, there's two things that we need to let you know. One, we are currently on our fourth CPA.
Oh, yeah.
Just so you all know, we're on our fourth CPA, and I always say this, nobody is going to care about your money as much as you do.
This is true.
Nobody's going to care as much
is
going to care for your money as much as you do. That's how I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is you got me. The reason I say that is because listen, like these CPAs, a lot of them, they got a lot of clients.
Yes.
And although they say, hey, we are going to take care of your taxes, we're going to reduce your burden and all of that stuff, like they don't have to open those letters from the IRS, right? Like they're not getting audited. You're getting audited.
Right.
They're just helping you with that. So everything that occurs ultimately when they are helping you in lieu of you. Like you are the person who is getting those notices. You are the person who, when a tax thing or a tax, IRS, when you're submitting
notification or
when you're submitting your taxes, it's your name on it.
Right.
So the reason I bring that up is just so people know that you got to educate yourself on this. Mm-hmm. And it's tough, right? If you own a car, you go to a mechanic, the mechanic says you got a CV joint this and this bearing is out of place and the fuel injector is like,
I don't know what that is.
I don't know any of that stuff. Right. I didn't go to Apex Tech.
Auto mechanic. Now there's a good trade.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know any of this stuff. How am I supposed to figure this out? I just want to pay someone to tell me what the problem is and then go on. So yes, they will take your money. They will provide an invoice, but was what they really fixed what you really needed?
Right.
And that is the struggle I think this guy has, right?
Yeah.
This surgeon who reached out to me, which is I found someone who was a recommendation from another doctor. Things started out really sweet. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I can't get in touch with person or dude or whoever it is. And now I'm getting these notifications, letters from the IRS.
Yeah.
I owe money. I try to reach them. I can't reach them. They finally do my some calculations, and
it's worse. It's more than the IRS.
So then you're starting to think, like, are they really doing their job? Are they just stringing me along?
Right. Or are they qualified to do it? Right. Like that's the other thing.
Well, they have the qualifications.
No, I mean in terms of like, there's one thing to have a qualification on paper. Right, or electronically or whatever. But there's the other thing of having the actual acumen. Like, does this person know what they're doing?
And therein lies the problem.
Right.
How do you, as a client, figure out if the professional that you're paying,
that's tough.
If they are qualified to do their job? And how
tough.
do you figure it out the first time you start working with someone?
That's tough, right? We see
because,
that
like
in
I said,
medicine.
guys, we're on our fourth.
We see that in medicine.
Didn't figure it out on the first time, the second time, the third time.
We see that in medicine. Do you know what you're doing? Well, this paper says I know what I'm doing. But when I go into the operating room, when I go into the delivery room, when I go into the exam room, that might not equate to what this paper says.
I'll be really honest. There's, when I drive home from one of my locums bids, it's like 5.5 hours away. I drive home and I think about all the operations that I did and how somebody else will take over and take care of the patients. It's a great thing. And we always strive for really great outcomes of our patients. And sometimes it doesn't occur.
Right.
A lot of times it does. There are times when it doesn't. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I always think about is these patients that I take care of, they don't have a choice as to who's going to take care of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have appendicitis and you live in a small town, or if you have appendicitis and you live in any town, like whatever ER you go to, whatever surgeon is located there, that's who you're going to get.
Right.
A lot of times I think about it, I'm like, man, I just come into this room, I explain everything to them, I even show them pictures, I tell them how I'm going to do the case. They all say, yeah.
Yeah. They don't know you from a hole in the wall. They don't, they haven't gotten recommendations from you or for you. Like, they have no choice. Whereas choosing a CPA, you obviously have a choice. But, again, we're on our fourth CPA. We've been recommended to CPAs in the past by, people who we trust. But the question is, does the person who is referring the CPA to you even know if they're having the best experience? That's the other thing.
This is the issue.
Right.
It's trial and error. It is the school of hard knocks.
Yep.
We're on our fourth.
Yep. And it can be an expensive mistake.
The majority of them have been recommended by other people. How do you know? Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie to you. We're on our fourth CPA, and I still kind of like, I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Right.
Right. Just to be honest with you.
Right.
So I'll tell you guys how we do it. We have our CPA. We meet with our CPA 4 times a year. The reason why we do 4 times a year is so that we can talk about every quarter. We can say, okay, this is how much you've billed in QuickBooks. Is it equivalent to the amount that you've paid in taxes? Or are you keeping up with your tax payment, like your estimated tax payments for the state of New Jersey, as well as federal taxes? Also, what are the goals that you want to get through with this year? Do you want to save more money in a 401k or a SEP IRA or some type of retirement account? Do you want to pay yourself more in a salary? Do you want to, like, I'm bringing up all these different things and we'll get into it more specifically, but continuously 4 times during this year, we're having these conversations to find out if we're meeting the projections.
Right.
And the reason I like that approach is that person is keeping you accountable.
You didn't say is.
I'll be damned.
Look at you.
And you're able to keep that person accountable if you know what you're talking about.
That's called growth.
It's called growth. You're right. Where I'm getting at is, what do you do when you don't have the knowledge? You meet with your CPA 4 times a year. How do you know if they're telling you BS or not? My answer is you got to educate yourself.
Yeah, I think so. The meeting 4 times a year, I think, is actually pretty important because, 1, it keeps you accountable. 2, it keeps you in tune, right? It keeps you in tune. Many of us have grown up in, especially in the W-2 world, right? If you're in the W-2 world, you grow up with you just do your taxes at the end of the year. Yeah. You don't worry about anything because your job should have taken everything out. Like, it's not your problem until the end of the year. And you go all the way till, you got all the way till April 15th of the following year to basically put everything in. And that's literally the only time you need to think about your taxes. Now, this question in particular is different from that because he's a locum doc. And so therefore he is his own employer. And if you are your own employer, then you have to think about yourself from the employer side as well as the employee side. And that's just going to take a little bit more effort. It's just going to take a little bit more effort.
Yeah, in exchange to have your freedom.
Right.
You're going to
have to work
a little bit more.
At that. That is the work.
Because a lot of people say, I don't want to have a boss. I don't want to have this. And it's like, are you ready to
be your own boss?
Are you ready to do the things that your boss, in essence, is already doing for you if you had an employee gig?
Right. Because guess what? Your W-2 employer ain't just sitting back. Somebody has set up, some sort of system for everyone to have their taxes taken out appropriately. Like, all of this has been set up. So the question is, did you do that due diligence on your end? Because you are not a W-2, like you were before. So it's just going to take a little bit more effort. I
agree. I agree with you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of like how we do it, some of the resources that we use. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick break and we will be right back. No matter where you are in your career, you've seen patients your age or younger get seriously injured, have a long-term illness, or even have a mental health issue that affects their ability to work. Now, what if that was you? No, for real, what if that was you? Without disability insurance, how are you going to replace your paycheck? In episode 176, Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance explains why the best time to buy disability insurance is during your residency.
Most physicians acquire their disability policies during residency, and there's several reasons. First of all, when you're younger, you're able to obtain the insurance because they ask you a whole host of medical history. And so you usually don't get healthier over time. Usually you get less healthy over time. So when you're healthy, it's easier to acquire the coverage. Number 2, it's also less expensive because it's based on your age and your health. You're not getting younger or healthier over time. So you're at the ideal time. The earlier you get it and the younger you are, the less expensive it's going to be.
So whether you're a resident or you're an attending, it's never too late to protect your income. Renee and I, we use Set for Life Insurance to find a disability policy that fit our needs and budget. So what are you waiting for? Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. Once again, that's setforlifeinsurance.com. Okay, we are back. So more or less how we do it, I mentioned earlier, we meet with our CPA 4 times a year. The biggest things that we want to talk about is, okay, what I do is when I get home, I fill out a timesheet and then I invoice if I work, 20 hours or how many hours. And then I do all of that stuff in QuickBooks. QuickBooks sends an electronic email to the hospital. The hospital gets that. They get my timesheets. They get my receipts. The receipts being like the hotel and what have you. And then eventually I get paid. Either they send me a check or I get a direct deposit.
Right.
That goes into my bank account. So not only is my CPA helping us with making sure that the invoicing is correct, making sure that the checks and the payments that we get match, they're also doing what's called bookkeeping also. So we pay an extra fee for them to bookkeep. So bookkeeping basically is they go into our accounts and they make sure that, oh, wow, this $100 check that you got from the hospital, that is for the work that you did on December 15th, 2023.
Right.
And they're able to match all of those things.
Yeah.
The amount that you use to charge for your Tesla, that's for specifically driving to your locums gig. Therefore, that's tax deductible.
Yeah.
So not only do you need a CPA who's going to be able to properly, do taxes with you, you need to have someone who's going to be able to properly categorize all of the payments that you're making or all of the monies that you're bringing in so that the CPA can do a right job.
Yeah.
Right. So these meetings are what's going on.
Essential, yeah.
So are we all on the same page with bookkeeping? Are we all on the same page with taxes? Are we all on the same page with the income that we're bringing in? Then we talk about, hey, Renee, how much do you guys want to save for the whole year? How much do you want to pay yourselves? And based off of that, our company creates a salary for us, right? We determine as a company how much we're going to pay separately, how much Renee's going to get paid. And then from there, that determines what we can put into our retirement.
Right.
So folks, we have what's called for our retirement plan with our business, we have something that's called a solo 401k. Very similar to people who are listening right now and you're employed and you have a 401k. Basically, it's the same thing. Yeah. Right? It's just that we run that plan. Okay. And based off of how much monies we're getting in, how much our salary is, that's going to determine what the maximum amount we can put into our 401k. It works just the same way.
Right.
So this is part of the meetings that we're having throughout the entire year. Are we going to be able to max that out? Are we trying to max that out? Things like that.
Yeah.
So earlier also I mentioned, okay, guys, I don't know if I'm going to keep this CPA. We're happy with our CPA, but sometimes they make mistakes, right? And sometimes you start to question are we doing the right thing? So for example, we just found out that there are several months. So we do Roth 401k contributions. I'm not going to get too much into the specifics, but basically just like you would contribute to your 401k, we contribute to our 401k, but we do it in a Roth type manner, right? We were finding out that there were several months where we thought a contribution was being made, but they were not.
Right.
What was on our basically in essence a W-2 slip or on our pay slip didn't match what was actually in our 401k. So somebody wasn't transitioning the money or transferring the money in.
Yeah. And
you have to get it in a year's time.
Right.
Right. So for example, let's say you're trying to max out your contribution. Let's say you want to put in a total of $20,000 in there. Let's say by the end of the year, you only put in 10. It's January 1st, you can't go back and put any more.
Right. It's done.
So that was a big deal to get that fixed. I didn't pick that up. You know who picked that up? Our financial planner. Right. So we have a financial planner who,
in addition to a CPA.
In addition to a CPA. So our financial, when we have these meetings, we are scheduling these meetings. I have on the email chain, it's our CPA, it's our financial planner. And then we all come together and the CPA brings documents, our financial planner brings documents, and we're hashing it out and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
So there are times where I'm just and then after a while, you remember, you told me, you're like, Nee, how many more CPAs are we going to go through?
Right. And part of the reason that I asked that is because,
Becausin'.
The reason that I asked that is because no person is going to be perfect, right? No person is going to be perfect. This person is not your personal concierge
CPA
type of CPA where they're exclusive to you, right? So they're not your consigliere.
Representing Mr. Paul Vitti as his consigliere.
You know what I mean?
But some of them advertise
like they are.
Like, not like they are personal, but they advertise a lot more than just a regular CPA position.
I get that.
And you feel like, well, because I'm paying a premium, because they start to charge a premium, well, you're going to take care of you're going to look at my stuff in a premium way.
So that's what Judge Judy says when Judge Judy says, that's called puffing.
Do you want this face to believe?
You should believe it because that's the truth.
I don't.
That's called puffing.
Yo, she is addicted to Judge Judy, guys.
I love that show. I love that show. But no, that's called puffing, right? That basically, I'm the best. I can do the best. You're going to get the best job. You're going to have the best experience. You come with me. That doesn't mean you're going to get exactly what you want. Okay? That just means that
overstating under delivery.
It might. It might. But it just states that you're going to basically purchase my service. And that pretty much is it. And as long as I do minimally what I say that I'm going to do, then I'm meeting the requirements. I might not meet your expectations, but I'm going to meet your requirements. But the other thing I was going to say is that I think we should take a step back.
Yeah, let's take a step back.
Right?
Where you want to go? I
want to go to the point of, do you even understand what, do you even understand all of the things that can be tax deductions for you? Are you even educated on that?
Yes.
Right? That's going to be extremely important. That first meeting that you have with the CPA, like the very first meeting when you're trying to figure out, is this the person for you or whatever? One of the things that I think you should look for, and I think that we look for specifically is this person in tune with the way that I work? And if they are in tune with the way that I work, are they willing to have a conversation with me that is more educational than is directional? Right? Are they teaching me something? Because if you just, if your first meeting with your CPA is just basically talking over your head, saying things that you're like, okay, well, this sounds good, but you don't feel like you could reproduce that conversation to somebody else because you haven't learned it, then that's probably not the CPA for you. You need to have somebody who, one, is asking you questions. We do this in academic medicine all the time, right? You got to do your needs assessment first. Figure out who your student is. Figure out what they know, what they understand. Because before I tell you everything that I know, I got to know what you don't know, and I got to teach you that first. Otherwise, if I tell you everything I know, you're going to have a deficit, and it's not going to make a difference.
I would say find a bunch of CPAs and interview them in that fashion. Don't just interview one and then say, I'm going to go with that person no matter what. Right. Because that's what happens. People will interview just one.
Yep.
And then either they meet their expectations or they don't meet their expectations. But because you've only interviewed one, well, I'm just going to go with that person. And I ask them the questions.
You don't have a metric. You don't have any type of measurement. Right.
You have to find a bunch of them and interview them. And I do think, the question of the tax deductions and all that, basically what that comes down is, are you educated to really have a conversation with that person?
Right.
How do you know they could be teaching you something, but they could be teaching you something wrong.
Yeah,
right?
So you need to do your research as well.
So I think this is a great resource. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this book. If you can't and you're listening, this is a book called Tax-Free Wealth. It's written by Tom Wheelwright, CPA. How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes. And this book I read probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And this book really changed my mindset on taxes because it really helped me to understand that the IRS is not really, I looked at the IRS more of like they're there to punish you. And this book teaches you like the IRS is really more of, if you follow their instructions, they will properly reward you for it. It's almost like a game, like gamifying certain things.
Yeah.
And it helped me to understand a lot of tax deductions and a lot of things that we could do to improve our tax situation. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. This book is not going to give you the exact specifics on all of the different lingos, but what it does is it makes you dangerous enough so that when you go into a meeting with your CPA, you're like, boom! See, what happened is on page 47, when it says, educational credits and cream of the crop and, saving all these different things, it just makes you a little bit more dangerous as to understanding what you should be asking, because I think one of the number one things that people have a problem with, and it's said in this question, is why is my CPA so reactive?
Yes.
And what we mean by reactive and reactionary as opposed to being aggressive or proactive is you give them your receipts, you give them all those different things at the end of the year. Folks, it's too late. By the time you're at that point where you're just giving receipts and you're filling out an organizer and you're talking about all the charitable contributions and you have 3 weeks left to go, the game is done.
Yeah.
The game is done. So
It's over.
if you have that type of relationship with your CPA, please only expect that to be a reactionary thing.
Yeah.
They're going to come back to you and say, well, yeah, I did your taxes. It would have been $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 cheaper if you had done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And people get really upset about that.
Right.
But that relationship starts in January.
Yes.
Not in February or March of the next year.
Right.
When the taxes are due on April 15th. And reading a book like this will help you to ask those questions to them and saying, hey, listen, like what we're doing. We have children. Mm-hmm. Is there a way we can get our eldest kid on the payroll? Why? Because, well, if I'm going to end up paying taxes anyway, or if the money's going to leave the bank account some way, rather than it going to Uncle Sam, if Uncle Sam wants me to pay somebody, if I don't pay them, then I'm going to have to pay Uncle Sam.
Exactly.
Then I might as well pay my child.
Pay Lil Darko.
Pay my child. Pay my child to come and clean the office.
Exactly. Right. And that's the thing, right? Is that you have to be having these questions in your head and these questions up for discussion pretty much very often, right? Like, how can we decrease our tax burden? And, remember that the premise of decreasing your tax burden when you are a business owner is that the more you spend on the business, right, the lower your tax burden will be.
Right.
But it has to be legitimate tax
or
legitimate purchases.
The IRS wants you to spend money to create business. They want you to promote business.
Yes.
And using your business to go to the gas station to fill up your car, if you're using it to go to do whatever job you need to do, that's going to be rewarded.
Right.
If you decide to put money into your 401k, they don't want a bunch of poor people at the end, right?
Right.
That's a thing that you're going to get rewarded for. These are things that reading this type of book and understanding this book will help you have a more educated experience with your CPA. And then the other thing too that we do that people don't know about is our locums business pays us, me and Renee, personally rent.
Yes.
Right? So we have a home office. There's a portion of the house that's specifically for what we do with our locums company.
Yep.
We have a computer in there. We have chairs in there. We have a fax machine in there. We do a whole bunch of things. And that is just specifically for that work. And as a result, you need electricity to power that place. You need heat to power that place. You need to use a portion of the internet. So what we did is with our CPA, we created a contract between not a contract. We created a lease.
A lease. Yeah.
Between me and Renee and our company.
Right.
And we came to an agreement that our company is going to pay us a certain amount to basically do business in this damn house.
Right.
And we've been doing that for a couple of years now.
For a couple of years, yeah.
And we have all the information, all the stuff. So IRS, don't come for us, all right? We
got the receipts.
Right? And they pay us a certain amount. Every month we write a check from the business to us. And that is our locums company paying
us rent.
For doing work here.
Yeah. Rent and partial utilities. And that, again, that's the thing, right? Is that a lot of times people will say, like, how do these millionaires and billionaires end up paying no taxes? Well, that's how.
Oh, they
right?
know the laws.
They know the laws. And, the trick is this. How do you incorporate so much of your personal life into your business life that now pretty much everything that you do becomes a business expense?
That's a hack. That's what you hope for.
Right. That's a hack, right? And so you could say, hey, we grossed, $5 million this year, for example, but if you spent like $4 million, then really you only made $1 million. Now, the taxes are probably going to be a little different between $1 million and $5 million. But the point is that you want so many things to be a business expense that you want to lower your tax burden in that way. And that's something that you can't just have in a meeting with your CPA. You have to be looking around your house, thinking about all types of things, thinking about your children, thinking about the car you drive, thinking about the food you eat, thinking about every little thing that you can think of to be able to say, how could I make this a business expense? And if it's a legitimate, look, y'all, legitimate business expense. If you can make it a legitimate business expense, then you will lower your tax burden accordingly. But you got to be thinking about it. It can't be an afterthought.
Yeah. So, it's a legitimate expense for me to have a Tesla.
Yes.
And that car stays parked in the driveway when I'm home. I don't use it, right? When I use it for work, I have to charge. All of those chargings, that's a tax deduction. Mm-hmm. And that's the way how it works. I have the receipts, all of those different things. The charging gets charged to our bank account, to the business's bank account. Mm-hmm. The loan payment or the lease payment comes out of the business because I need a way to get to work.
Yeah.
And the IRS doesn't say which car you can get. It just says how you should get the car and how you should use the car.
Exactly.
I decided that's what I wanted to do.
So don't go and put the car under your name and then say it's exclusively
I don't recommend doing
for
that.
the business,
Don't
right?
do
So our business, and we teach our son this, right? Because he loves the Tesla. And he's always like, oh, I want to take it there. And we say to him, that's not our car. That car belongs to a business. We don't even tell him our business. We tell him that the car belongs to a business and we are just borrowing that car so that we can use it for work. So, that's really important for you to be thinking about constantly what you can do to lower your tax burden. And don't expect your CPA to come up with all of the ideas.
Yeah, they're not going to come up with the ideas.
They're not going to come up.
You have to bring that up in a meeting,
right?
And that's ultimately what I said to that surgeon. I was like, listen, I'm gonna be running. The fact that I'm telling you that we're on our fourth CPA should tell you something already right now.
Yep.
Right. You move on. You use them. If you finally get enough knowledge to realize that the person's not doing as good of a job, or maybe you've kind of outgrown the relationship, it's time to move on. And that's kind of what we've done. Mm-hmm. And now we know.
Educating ourselves.
And now we know the questions to ask. Right.
Yes.
So someone can say and they can huff and puff and all those different things. And then after a while, you're like, I don't think we're going to work really well together. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that should discourage you from doing some type of side business, side hustle, locums or what have you.
Yeah.
You can still figure it out. It's just, you got to know the right questions to ask, right? Yeah. It's the same thing with medicine. Like once you get out of residency, guys, like you got the knowledge. It's just that there's certain things that you're going to have to just educate yourself on, like
on your own,
and just figure it out. That's how it is. That's how it works. And so, I think when I got off the phone with this surgeon, they were really positive about it. You could tell they were a little bit kind of hesitant of having to acquire the knowledge.
Right.
But I said, the reason why you're calling me is because you haven't acquired the knowledge.
Exactly.
And what's going to happen is you're going to keep bouncing from one CPA to another CPA to another person. I'm not happy. I'm not here. Once you figure out the expectations based off of your knowledge, you can say, you know what, this person can only take me so far. Then you're less angry and more like, I'm going to use that energy to kind of educate myself.
Right.
And go from there. So yeah, once I figured out that those transfers weren't taking place, I was kind of like, But then I was also kind of happy that we found it, we figured it out, and I'll continue to educate myself on, well, how is it that I can make sure this issue doesn't happen again? How do we figure this out?
Right.
Is it time to move on? Who knows? But the most important thing is that I recognize that. And that's what we want you all to see is that, like, for us, it ain't perfect, but we know that, hey, we realize that we got blind spots. What can we do to fix things up? And we want you all to know that it's not going to be perfect, but you got to keep moving forward.
Right.
Keep it moving forward, yo. Keep moving.
Learn from those mistakes. Put in the checks and balances. For us, the checks and balance was having the financial planner also to kind of see what was going on. And so, I think even if the surgeon decides to stay with the CPA, regardless of what they decide to do, leave the CPA, stay with the CPA, it sounds like there's some educating that's going to have to happen regardless.
Yeah.
So
Hey, listen, and we always here for questions. We always here to answer it. I didn't realize how many times people ask me questions.
People ask you a lot.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. A lot of people call me out of the blue, like, "Hey, let me get your opinion," or they email me, or they send us whatever it is. They ask us questions about a lot of different things. So we're always here to answer it for y'all. Any question, just submit it to us and let us know. Alfred, if you can put the number below, the text number of how to text us and reach us, we'll also put that in the show notes and let us know.
Or you can slide into our DMs on Instagram. Docs Outside the Box. Docs Outside the Box.
Anything else you want to share on this, or?
No, not really. I think we covered a good bit of that, but yeah.
I'm wondering if the next episode should be us celebrating that I'm no longer going to be working at a locum spot anymore.
No.
That's another topic for discussion. So basically, guys, I just found out that I'm not going to be utilized at a hospital anymore. I'm kind of sad, but I'm also kind of like, oh, that was cool. It ended in a really positive way.
Yeah, because that's how locums usually goes, right?
They were building their trauma center. They've gotten to a point where they're like fully staffed, and I really liked it. And they gave me the opportunity to become an employed doc, but I was like, nah.
Not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't want to move my family to a different location at this point, but, you know.
And you don't want to be W-2.
And I don't want to be W-2 at this point.
Boss.
Yeah. At this point, I don't want a boss. But the person who I would have been working under, I would go to battle for that person.
Okay.
That person,
that's a good thing.
That surgeon is a very good leader. That surgeon is a very good surgeon. That surgeon is I'll just leave it to you like this. And people know what I'm talking about. In trauma surgery, in surgery in general, there are very few gentlemen or there are very few gentlewomen in surgery left. And not to say that there was before, but there's just not many who you look at them and you're like, you're a good dude or you're a good woman. Like I rock with you. You make really good decisions. You respect everybody. He's one of those dudes that I'm like, I could work with you anytime. If you ask me for anything, I trust that you're coming from a good place.
Yeah.
You don't get that from everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's good then.
Oh yeah.
That's a good experience.
All right, y'all. We're going to catch you guys on the next episode of Docs Outside the Box. Let us know if you want us to answer any more questions. Send us more questions. We'll answer them for you.
Oh, you have so many questions. You have so many questions that have remained unanswered. We need to do more Q&A.
Yeah,
you got a lot of questions out there.
We should. We got to do more Q&A. We got to make it more fun too also, man.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.